Hi, welcome to Punch Perfect Boxing, and our video today is on the lost art of inside fighting. Now, about 50 odd years ago, Floyd Patterson wrote in an article that the art of real inside fighting is dying. Now, what Patterson meant was not two guys standing there with their heads touching each other and wailing away, you hit me and I'll hit you, you hit me once, I'll hit you twice. That's not what he meant. What he meant was the true art of inside fighting, when two guys are this close and you're learning how to control the fighter, you're learning how to give punishment and not take it, and you're learning how to tie up your opponent and take as less shots as possible. Now, Roberto Duran was great at infighting. He would get his hands inside his opponent's reach, they'd be head to head, and he would be controlling the arms, the punches. He would often get a sneaky uppercut or two in, he'd be firing short shots to the body, and he'd be there, he'd just feel his way. I'm sure he could have fought inside blindfolded because he would just feel his way inside his opponent's shots. But for me, Duran took too many shots. He liked brawling, and maybe he would have been better when he was in that situation. Yeah, he was getting a lot of shots off, but he would have been better if at times controlling his opponent, tying up his opponent, etc. Now, today the two best examples that I can think of, the way I teach how to fight on the inside, is Floyd and Andre Ward. Floyd was great at being on the ropes, blocking, weaving, bobbing, doing his Philly shell, etc. But when he wanted to, he would tie up his opponent, he would control them, and he would make them reset. And that's another great advantage of being able to fight on the inside. Being able to control and tie up your opponent. When someone was too aggressive with Floyd, that's what he'd do, and it would have the thing of making you reset. And when you can't get into your rhythm, you can't flow, you can't throw your punches the way you want to, you can't set up your attacks the way you want to, it can be terribly frustrating. And I know a lot of fans will say, oh, but Floyd hugged, and Floyd, he ran and he hugged and his stuff. No, what he did was actually tied up his opponent, and it's a very clever move used at the right times, because it frustrates your opponent, it breaks their cadence, it breaks their rhythm, and often what will happen is you'll force your opponent into making a mistake. But the best exponent of inside fighting for me is Andre Ward. He would use it at the right times, he would use it to, like I say, control his opponent, to get in shots, to tie up, to lean, to tire, to frustrate. Brilliant example of inside fighting. If you look at some of his fights, he would invite the jab, slip underneath the jab, close the distance really well, and then tie up his opponent, usually controlling one of the arms and then punching away with the other hand. And then once he'd done that and he'd mission accomplished, he would tie up and lean on his opponent. And it's a very tiring, very frustrating thing to do. The other thing, if you look at the first Kovalev fight, he would put his hands up high, nice tight guard, crouch down low, put out his right foot, his left foot, right foot, left foot, shift into place, and at the same time bobbing and weaving like a mini Mike Tyson, and get in and land some shots on Kovalev. All brilliant examples of hitting and not being hit. Now, Kovalev obviously was well schooled in this, because I read somewhere that he got a wrestling coach in, and when Andre Ward was there right in close, Kovalev would then get Andre Ward in a headlock and try and control him as best as possible. And if you look at the second fight with Andre Ward, you'll see that Kovalev is much more adept at getting his blows off in a tight situation, rather than the first fight when he was a little bit of a fish out of water. Even though the infighting and the body shots is what led to Kovalev's downfall, at least he tried to learn from his mistakes. Now, when Andre Ward became a professional. I remember Virgil Hunter saying that what he wanted to do with Andre Ward is work on the things he wasn't good at. And one of the things that Virgil Hunter thought was paramount was to have an inside game. All the things that we've just spoken about. Because he said, there are so many things that you're good at, but we want to work on the things that you're not good at. You don't have an inside game. You cannot fight on the inside. And apparently at the time Andre Ward hated it, but they got the body belt on, they got the opponents to fight with him, to spar with him in a very close distance, and he learned how to wrestle, he learned how to control, he learned how to tie up, he learned how to put his body in positions close to that he wasn't going to take punishment. He could give out punishment, but he wasn't going to take it. So again, there's a nugget in there for all aspiring boxers. Work at what you're not good at. And often we'll see guys in the ring, they'll take a shot and they'll be as vulnerable as hell. They don't know how to tie up. They don't know how to control, how to lean on an opponent, how to tie them up to stop taking further punishment. And this can buy you valuable seconds in the ring. If you go back and you look at the second Ali v Fraser fight, the one that kind of gets ignored, everybody goes for the fight of the century, everybody goes for the thriller in Manila. But if you look at the second fight, you'll see a huge change in Ali, the way he sets up for Fraser. And one of the things that Ali didn't do in the first fight, he didn't control Fraser as well as he could have. And he obviously went away and learned from his learned from his mistake. And you'll see in the second fight that he pulls Fraser into him a lot more, and he controls his arms. And this doesn't allow Fraser to get his arms free and to throw those beautiful hooks to the body and hooks to the head as much as he did in the first fight. He'll have him in close and he'll control him. He'll have his head here and he'll be controlling Fraser and clinching and tying him up, and then they have to reset. So obviously Ali had learned a huge amount from the first fight, and he learned how to control Fraser. So it's a very useful lesson. Another great example recently is the George Groves versus Eubank fight. Now, one of Eubank's most feared weapons is the uppercut inside. They'll get very close and Eubank likes to fire in those uppercuts, either holding on to the opponent or just keeping him at that short distance and firing in those lethal uppercuts. What George Groves did was he tied him up, pulled him close and put his chin on Eubank's shoulder, which completely negates those uppercuts. So again, another way of neutralizing your opponent's attack. So I think it's very, very useful. I know a lot of fans, as I said, don't like it. They'll say it's hugging, it's holding, it's this, that and the other, but there is an art to it. So these are my thoughts on inside fighting. I think it's a lost art. I don't think enough people do it. Even if you just use it, like I said, just when you get hurt, when you need to buy those seconds, to learn how to control, learn how to tie up, lean on your opponent, tire them out, frustrate them, break their cadence, break their rhythm. These are all parts of boxing, and very, very useful parts of boxing. I know the fans don't necessarily like that, but it's about hit and not be hit. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.